Donc, on va commencer.
Let's get started. 7 years ago, here at the Cultural Islamic Center in Quebec City, there was an Islamophobic and terrorist attack. We have a duty of remembrance and also a duty to look towards the future, and this is what brings us together today. Thank you for joining the 7th Citizen Commemoration of the attack on the Great Mosque of Quebec. My name is Mariam Bessiri. My name is Sophie Marois. Salam alaikum. We are part of the Citizen Committee. I remember, for those who are joining us in English, good evening. Tonight we gather 7 years after the attack, which took place right here in this place, in this prayer room, where we feel so safe. In this same room where the sound of bullets silenced 6 of our fellow citizens and made an impression on the lives of many wounded, bereaved families, and a whole city where usually it feels so good to live. We know that this anniversary is extremely painful and that the wounds are still raw. As we do every year, we gather in a duty of remembrance, solidarity, but also in a cry from the heart for peace and refusal to yield to hatred and violence in this beautiful city of Quebec. Islamophobia does not begin when a person opens fire in a mosque to kill Muslims who were praying in peace. No, it begins in the classroom, in the workplace, in the streets, around the dining table, and in the legislature. This year, we place commemoration under the banner of solidarity. The solidarities that we've built and woven in order to recover from an unspeakable tragedy. It helps us to find meaning, calm, and strength through the intricate and complex paths of grief and healing. This is the second time that the commemoration is taking place inside the mosque. It's a way to return to our roots and also an open invitation to take a moment together in this place of peace, of prayer, and of recollection. As we gather here tonight, we are on the Nunyan-Wet'suwet'en traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat Nation. We would like to begin with welcoming Miss Edith Picard, elder from the Huron-Wendat Nation.
Kwe.
Kwe. Welcome. Welcome to Nunyan-Wet'suwet'en, the territory, ancestral territory of the Huron-Wendat. Nunyan-Wet'suwet'en means our magnificent land in Wendat. The presence of the Huron-Wendat community at this ceremony of a very sad event of January 29th, 2017. Our presence is important to us. In this moment, the Muslim community was struck. A community that had chosen to come to Nunyan-Wet'suwet'en and make it their new homeland. Nunyan-Wet'suwet'en is a hub for meetings for both First Nations and for many communities who came here. It is extremely important to us to express, therefore, our solidarity towards these communities, hoping that this ceremony will bring calm and foster brotherhood, generosity, and support, all values that we have seen following this event. Tsawing, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Picard. Tsawing. Let's now welcome the Imam of the mosque for reading a few verses of the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bienvenue à tous, Inch'Allah. Je vais commencer.
Welcome all. I will read a few verses from the Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم إنما ذلكم الشيطان يخوف أولياءه فلا تخافوهم وخافون إن كنتم مؤمنين صدق الله العظيم. Merci beaucoup pour votre.
Thank you so much for being here.
C'est dans la sobriété et surtout dans la solidarité que nous nous recueillons pour
With sobriety, we come here to celebrate 7 years after the attack. Let's take a moment to commemorate our brothers. Let's observe a minute of silence while we name them in the very place where they lost their lives. Ibrahima Bari, Mamadou Tanu Bari, Khaled Belkacemi, Abdelkrim Hassan, Hazedine Soufiane, Abu Bakr Tabti.
Chaque vie humaine est sacrée.
Every human life is sacred, representing a facet of all humanity. The mourning of every lost life is immeasurable, but we also know that there is solidarity in grief, and we want to shed light on this solidarity tonight. The solidarities that emerged from here and have come with us for the past 7 years are not only the beating heart of remembrance, but is also a treasure that we tend to cherish and grow for years to come, together with the families and loved ones of the victims. Solidarities amongst various communities and faith-based communities of Quebec City, with the Huron-Wendat Nation and other First Nations of neighboring lands, with the Polytechnic School in Montreal, the community of London, Ontario, the Synagogue of Pittsburgh in the United States, the Mosque of Christchurch in New Zealand, and others. We do want to acknowledge Saint Arnaud from Paul se souvient. Thank you so much for sitting in solidarity with us tonight. We cannot talk about solidarity without extending our own to the Palestinian population who are facing genocide, famine, and apartheid in their own country. Over the past 114 days, many people here tonight have spent days where grief seemed unsurmountable, focused on the horrors that we see unfolding in real time on the civilian population of Palestine. We mourn their loss, and we denounce the silence, the lack of action, and the lack of solidarity from our governments. To this end, we would like to draw your attention to the presence of Ambassador Mona Abouara, Chief Representative of the Palestinian General Delegation to Canada. Let's now welcome Boufelja Ben Abdallah, co-founder and spokesperson of the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City.
Saline. Je prends un grand respire parce que
I'm taking in a deep breath because this moment, January 29th, 2017, when our brothers who were here for one sole reason, they were praying over in this corner where my brother Anwa is standing right now. We cannot forget this picture. They came to pray. Pray for what? For whom? They were praying for Allah to hear our prayers so that we all be brothers and sisters on this land, on earth. They were not praying in a self-centered manner. They were praying for future generations and for the good that they see unfolding every day on this planet. And thank God for all of these good deeds and blessings. But man, with a heart of violence and because of instruments of death that are assault rifles and such, guns, in just 2 minutes, the perpetrator shot 48 bullets, snuffed out 6 lives, wounded 5 more, including our brother Ayman, who is the very example of resilience in his wheelchair. He can only feel from the neck up and one right hand. He cannot even cough. It's important to say these things. It matters to say that we're not crying in vain. We want to remember this moment. This moment matters. This is a moment that should not ever happen, but history is full of these bad deeds. But we say no. We say no to these deeds. Earlier, I was listening to the elder from the Huron-Wendat nation. This serenity, where does it come from? It really felt so good. And when our imam cited a few verses from Quran, I thought, how could hearts stay cold? And how could eyes remain dry? It is impossible. A serenity such, welcoming us to this huge Wendat territory, providing us with such wealth, all of these peoples that we are exchanging with, and the Word of God saying, do not forget those who are dead did not die in vain. They're with me now, and they're expecting you the day that you'll join them. We're here to remember these events. But also, through this profound sadness, God says, or God never says, that we do not feel joy through sadness. And indeed, we have felt joy through this sadness. The very next day, 15,000 people came in minus 40-degree weather to say, we are standing with you. We are a part of you. We are with you. And joy came because we felt supported. We felt that people see us as full-fledged citizens. I did not forget the minister, the Palestinian representative, the MPP, the mayor Marchand. Where is he? Oh, over there. Okay. Dear Bruno, I have not forgotten you. I also, people from Quebec Solidaire as well as CAQ, they're here. And they came to give a bit of their time to share this with us. Thank you so much. This is what solidarity is and what pride is. We feel proud to see you here with us, and we are with you to build this society together. Yes, we commemorate this moment of solidarity, faith-based or not. We commemorate every day when we go in the shopping malls, and when people see us, they remember and they come to us and they ask, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are the families doing? People have not forgotten. If we forget this generosity, no, we should never. I want to thank everyone who see me in the street, who are asking, and it's not just rarely, no, systematically, people ask me about how the families are doing, how the children, bereaved children are doing. All this to say that we're part of a society who is loving, full of compassion, and we do not forget that. But we also have this duty to know the history of Quebec, to understand it in order to be a full-fledged partner. I tell my friends, learn about Quebec geography, ethnology, history. You'll discover how this people grew and progressed. Read about First Nations, how they domesticated nature, how they tapped its resources in order to live and prosper through in this country. We live in a magnificent country. We will not forget the political support, both federal and provincial, also municipal. At the federal level, we do have to say, we fought, I believe, for 4 years, at Polytechnique se souvient. So for 32 years, they fought so that the feminist side of the Polytechnique would be recognized and acknowledged as such, and pushed until today we have Bill C-21 against firearms and assault rifles. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is for the collective good. They gave their time rather, freely to get handguns banned. We spent our time as well, and we thank God that senators have listened to us, and now we have this act. If you don't know, if you're not aware, look at Bill C-21 and you will see. Let me wrap up in saying that we are also commemorating and honoring the fact that we are in this beautiful city where we have everything we need. We have the ski resort, the St. Lawrence River, we have Queue de Castor, and Oreille de, well, I shouldn't say that anyway. We have so much that we love in this city, Mr. Marchand. We support you and we stand with you. And with everything that you're doing for coexistence, especially with this special commission dedicated to coexistence, directed by David Weiser, and this is a committee I'm also sitting on. This means that you have a genuine and significant concern for people to learn togetherness. This is all I have to say. But we have a very special guest, Mona. I met her a while ago. I would like to acknowledge her presence. Representative from Palestine. And we're not trying to conflate things. We're solidarity. We stand in solidarity of all sad events. But we want to see the sunshine come back. And the Palestinian people deserve it. If the situation is to be corrected, we will all be happy. We are not against Jews. Jews have the right to live. They are a people just like we are. This is why I'm friends with David. I'm friends with Miriam. Why should we fight when we have only one desire? To live together. If men and women of goodwill are going to sit together and say, we have one shared ideal, living well, then horizons will broaden and all peoples will live together. My Palestinian brother, you're here. Thank you. I wish for you a lot of courage. I know that you're here and your wife and children are still over there, but inshallah, and we're praying for you so that they can come back with you. I'm wrapping up here. There are only a few of us here, but I see you. I see you smiling. This is not only a day of sadness, and I love the minister over there smiling. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Ben Abdallah.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Abdallah. January 29th, 2017. All of Quebec City was brutally confronted with violent consequences of Islamophobia. Unfortunately, this attack was not an isolated act in a city where we too often have seen words and acts of hatred or of the far right, acts that hurt and divide. But in this city, we have seen great solidarity movements that unite us in the fight for an inclusive city, one that looks like us. It is this solidarity that we must build every day of the year, every year. And if there is one thing that marks us year to year, it is the love expressed by survivors and victims' families in Quebec City. Let's now welcome the mayor of the city, Mr. Bruno Marchand.
Salam alaikum.
Salam alaikum. Every January 29th, for the past 3 years, I think over what I need to say, what would make sense, what would be appropriate, I wonder. I'd like to find the right formulation, one that can heal, the right wording, the right expression to bring peace to your hearts. I don't know if there is such a word or such an act, but we'll continue trying. We'll continue to extend a hand. I'm convinced that beyond people who allow for evil to triumph, there are also good people who are not inactive. Heidi was named. It was decades of fighting. I met her actually on suicide prevention committees so that what is going on south of the border doesn't happen here. This is a David against Goliath battle because the lobbies don't want this. Heidi and Serge together. These are good people. Tonight at Téléjournal there was David, able to laugh and be together, from different faiths, but carrying this message from Saint-Exupéry, saying, if you're different from me, this is not a problem, you enrich me. Quebec City has a wealth of diversity, color, the wealth of seeing life differently. But we have a lot of work to do. There is still hatred, there is still violence. But if we can't get there, I think many others won't. We might have the seeds here of something that can bring change on a larger scale. We can say that we are not idle. And if we're going to be good people and renounce to bullying and daring to invite someone for coffee and share a meal together and repeat, if you're different from me, far from damaging me, you enrich me. Thank you so much.
Merci, Monsieur Marchand.
Thank you, Mr. Marchand. 7 years down the road, our concern continues to grow over the release of hateful words that targets immigrants, Muslims, asylum seekers, and minorities in general. These hateful words, tragically, are too often translated into action. Since the fall, across Quebec and the rest of Canada, there has been a marked increase in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic acts. Civic commemorations have always denounced hatred in all forms. Over the past year, the Muslim community in London, Ontario has once again experienced the horrors of an attack that killed 4 members of the Hafsal family on a quiet Sunday night in June 2021 through the trial for this terrorist and Islamophobic attack. This judicial process is a painful reminder of everything that needs to be done to fight against the far right, white supremacism, Islamophobia, and racism in all forms. We acknowledge the resilience of the victims and the only young survivor. In Quebec City, we know all too well the strength and resilience that are required to get through all of these trials. We offer to the community of London, Ontario, our sincerest solidarity. Let's now welcome Amira El Gawabi, Special Representative on Combating Islamophobia in Canada.
Chers amis et dignitaires,
Dear friends, good evening. This is an honor to be here tonight on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat. This is a source of inspiration to see you all here. Beautiful in your resiliency and diversity, representing the best that Quebec City has to offer.
in person or watching online, to demonstrate your commitment to bearing witness to the pain of a tragedy that deeply affected this community and so many fellow Quebecers and fellow Canadians. Nos pensées et
Our thoughts and prayers go to the victims of this tragic attack, as well as survivors and their families. The immeasurable loss of fathers, husbands, beloved members of the community killed for no reason other than their faith. This is a dark chapter in Canadian history. Never before such an attack had happened in a place of worship, and we hope that this will never happen again.
to represent sacred refuge from the stresses and harshness of the world beyond its walls. And yet, on January 29th, 2017, the tranquility that was sought right here in this room was destroyed by hate, by Islamophobia. And now we mark the passage of time, 7 years since fear, ignorance, demonization, and violent extremism destroyed the lives of so many families and shook our country to its very core. Aujourd'hui, nous observons.
Today, collectively, is the National Day of Remembrance in the Quebec City Mosque attack and action against Islamophobia. We must never forget what happened here and why. Islamophobia hurts all of us because it hurts the social fabric of Canada. We should never be afraid of being oneself, to practice our faith, and to have our identities.
A distressing rise in Islamophobia, anti-Palestinian, and anti-Arab racism. We must take this moment to remind each other of the consequences of leaving hate unchecked in our society. Confronting Islamophobia is not one community's responsibility alone. It is a struggle. It is a struggle that requires collective effort. It is a struggle that requires each of you, each of us. Together, we can make Canada a more inclusive country where everyone truly, truly belongs and can be whoever they want to be. Our collective action has the power to make positive change and ensure that our rights, our freedoms are fully respected, are fully upheld, and that we are safe everywhere and anywhere in our communities. Notre action collective.
Collective action can truly make a difference. Thank you.
Merci, Madame El Gawabi.
Thank you. We have a next generation calling for a truly fair and inclusive society where everyone can live and prosper regardless of the skin color, or their faith. let's listen to two young citizens of Quebec City.
Bonjour à tous et à toutes.
Good evening. Hopefully you are well. In a spirit of friendship and solidarity, we want to commemorate the first peoples of these, the Huron-Wendat nation, and the Wabanaki and Innu, as well as Atikamekw and Wolastoqey. We honor our relationships with one another. We are here today to commemorate the tragic event of January 29th, 2017. Not an isolated event, but part of an accumulation of hatred against the Maghreb community and Islamic community. This event taught us that prejudice and bias against minorities can have deathly consequences. This brought us to a universe that we thought did not exist, when we just choose to ignore insults until one day someone commits something that cannot be repaired. 7 years later, we're still here. We stand in solidarity with the community targeted by these acts. We want to value togetherness and coexistence in order to progress as a society. That being said, there is a lot more to do before we can say that we are safe from such attacks. There is still a lot of hateful actions in our everyday lives. We see this in various spheres of society, in a poor management of the education and health system. We have people who cannot be fully integrated. We need to be careful because we want to be full-blown citizens here. We gather here tonight and we have people mingling together, coexisting, creating a place where it feels good to live while respecting differences and focusing on similarities. We're working together, immigrants, Indigenous, and Quebec people, in order to provide opportunities for the next generation. For Zineb and myself, it's important to acknowledge the parents, or our parents, who left their homelands behind. They left their homeland in order to provide better opportunities for us and the possibility to live freely in a democratic country. However, here, a lot of people found themselves isolated and have a hard time feeling welcomed. They are now no longer alone, and they can stand here with pride. Even if part of the population and media continues to be disrespectful to our culture and religion, we thank everyone here for everything that you did for us. Thanks to your efforts and with everything that you gave us, with good social support, we want to be actors and factors for change. Never again we will accept marginalization, whether here in Quebec City or elsewhere in Canada or in Palestine. What is going on internationally does have an impact on our everyday lives. With global conflicts, we see a lot of people assuming who we are, labeling us. And this can be dangerous for us. They conflate issues together and assume. They assume that we're all the same barbarians, and they want to avoid coexisting together. They want to see us as the other, who are a danger to their society. It's time to change that.
What the hell?
Trudeau.
Ça ne t'ébranle pas, tu continues le programme à ce jour. C'était super. C'est pour ça qu'on amène
Est-ce qu'il y a...
des gens pour qu'ils disent des vrais trucs, pas des trucs politiques.
Ouais.
Bonjour, ça va.
Non, mais t'es tellement contre.
T'es avec beaucoup de yes. Bon, c'est maintenant jamais. Là, les médias sont tous en train de... C'est parti.
Ils adorent ça. Oui!
Après, alors.
On continue.
Bon, prends.
Ok, c'est bon.
On prend le temps, on laisse les gens s'asseoir.
C'est bon, vas-y. C'est bon? En commémorant cette journée, nous...
In commemorating this event, we commemorate the victims, while expressing our determination in fighting against injustice. Whether here in Canada or elsewhere, everyone is aware of the genocide that, since 1948, has killed many people.
le lien entre ces deux réalités.
The relationship between these two events resides in our quest for peace and dignity. The Palestinian genocide, with its suffering and loss, reminds us that there is no geographic boundary for this fight for justice. We are a witness of this genocide that is tearing apart entire families. We use our voices to express solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Victimes d'une violence.
They are victims of persisting violence, just like the indigenous nations saw with the death of Joyce Echaquan. We see that hatred and lack of tolerance can share roots. Wrapping this up, let's remind us that we need to fight against misinformation, that we need to tolerate differences and have openness towards other people. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à Zineb et à
Thank you, Zineb and Marjorie. Thank you for this inspiring word. Now, let's move on to poetry. Let's welcome Humu Giraud, activist from Quebec City.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum. I remember January 29th, 2017. I was here in Canada. I remember sitting on the couch at least 2 hours looking at Facebook, speaking over the phone. An attack in Quebec City? A terrorist shooting? An Islamophobic attack? I panicked, thought of my brothers and sisters, thought, why? Shock, frustration, cries, tears. I was pregnant with my child then, and I was scared. I became scared for our children. I was thinking about them. Must I still say that systemic racism is not acknowledged in Quebec and that the story repeats itself every time? that I need to tell my daughter, no, you cannot be a teacher despite any knowledge or know-how. This is insufficient. What matters is what you have, not just in your mind, but rather what you have on your head. No, this is not that way. I think of our children. In January we commemorate, but what happens from February to December? I think of our children. We're tired of fighting and being told that we need to coexist. We have been coexisting for a long time. We're here in the market, in the streets, in the mosque, invisible in society at large, invisible in high society, invisible on TV. We're skilled, but there's always a but. Our names betray our identities, and we can only hope to stay at the bottom of society. Always the same story. We're visible, yet invisible. We're here, but unseen. I look to the left and to the right, and I observe. Don't mention exceptions that confirm a rule, because even in French these exist. They're rare, like snow in the middle of summer. I think of our children. Is it utopia to think that they're united and visible, living in a world that is fair and beautiful? I think of our children here and elsewhere. I think of them in Palestine, in solidarity with the Palestinian people. A ceasefire, is that too much to ask?
Solidarité.
Solidarity. Let me have hope nonetheless for our children. In the meantime, we need to fight for our rights, for being seen, and for being heard. We're part of this society, regardless of what's being said about us. We're here. We're here. Thank you.
Un chaleureux merci à Oumu.
Thank you, Umu. Thank you for sharing this poem with us. We heard the words ceasefire and genocide. There you go. This commemoration is organized annually through the valuable collaboration between the Citizen Committee, January 29th, I remember, and the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City. Since 2017, this entire citizen organization relies on volunteers who dedicate their time and energy for months for the sole purpose of enabling a citizens' gathering like tonight's. We would like to thank everyone who has been involved in Quebec City for the past 7 years, but also throughout Quebec and Canada in solidarity activities. Without these volunteers, commemoration would not be possible. Finally, we thank you for coming here this evening. Thank you for your duty to remember towards victims and their families. Thank you for being mobilized against hatred and violence. In the words of the Gazawi poet Rafet al-Azir, who was killed by a bombing last December, "If I must die, you have to live and tell my story."
Maintenant, pour clore la cérémonie.
In wrapping this up, we invite the Imam Mohammed Fouab to read a few more verses from the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum. Comme j'ai commencé par quelques
I started earlier with a few verses from the Quran, and let me conclude the same way.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان كل من عليها فان كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العظيم. جزاكم الله خيرا. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. qu'Allah
Thank you, everyone.
تعالى أن يرحم شهداءنا الأبرار. اللهم ارحمهم رحمة واسعة. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم. اللهم ارحم شهداء هذا المسجد وكل إخواننا في فلسطين أجمعين. اللهم كل إخواننا في فلسطين وكيلا ومعينا وحفيظا. اللهم اجمعنا دائما على خير ومودة ومحبة. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Merci. Merci encore, Monsieur Fouad. Pour les personnes
Thank you again. For those who are here with us at the mosque, you're invited to stay for some snacks and refreshments that will be served downstairs. Prayer will be held in a few minutes in this room. So please go downstairs now. The recording of tonight's commemoration will be available on our social media. You're invited to share.